Hello Stampers, this is Sheila with Stamping Wishes, and today I have some real exciting news. My upline, Dawn Griffith, she does these weekly card sketches for her demonstrators to be able to have things and just kind of think outside the box. And so anyway, on her 100th card sketch, which is 100 weeks of her card sketch, she had a special go on that she allowed her demonstrators, whoever wanted to enter it, to enter their best selections of that particular design, and from there to she would put it out on her blog. And last week she had the cards that were entered just with numbers on them, and then her customers and her demonstrators and everything had an opportunity to vote on those. And I'm happy to say that mine was voted #1. Very exciting news for me. And she was so generous in allowing me to order a bundle of my choice up to $50. So I thought that was extremely generous. But this is the card that did win the contest, and I thought we would go ahead and do it today and show you some of the items that I did to make this card. Okay, this is the stamp set that I use, the Holly Jolly Christmas. Love, love, love it. I love to color, so obviously it would be a favorite of mine. And I also use the Merry Christmas out of here, which is what I used for the little sign. And what I did with the particular item that she had on her 100th sketch was, when I saw it, this piece here was probably down a little bit further, and the first thing I thought of was a chimney with that narrow piece. And then of course I saw my stamp set and I thought, yep, it's got to be a Santa Claus with a mantle and the whole 9 yards, and that's where this thought came from. So let's go ahead and get started about the measurements, and these will pop up on the screen, so don't worry about writing them down. They'll be there and available to you to do as I go through the video. Okay, and they'll also be on my blog, so don't forget that as well, and that's stampinwishes.com if you're watching this from YouTube. All right, so we took a piece of the cherry cobbler, and it measures 4 1/4 by 11, and we're going to score it at 5 1/2. Then we had a piece that is 4 inches. It's the framing of the card. It's 4 inches by 5 1/4. Okay, this is one of the embossing folders. It's hammered metal, and it's beautiful with our foils, so do try it on the copper and the different ones that we have. It comes out gorgeous. This is what it looks like once it goes through. And I went ahead and embossed it ahead of time so that we could go. And either side looks really, really interesting, so I think you could use either one. We'll be using this one today, so we'll set that here, and we'll set this one off to the side for another card. And then we have, in the background after that, is our piece of black foil. And this particular one measures 2 1/2 by 4 1/2. Okay, and that will be, you can kind of see the layering start to happen here. And then we have what we'll do, our strip back here, which this particular strip measures 1 1/2 by 5 1/2. And what we're going to be using to put our brick design on there is one of the Pattern Party decorative mask pieces, and I'll have all these supplies noted. But what I usually do is I try and adhere it here, and then we sponge it on, which we'll do that in just a little bit. But that piece, once we finish with it, will lay right here on top. And then we have our piece that is 1 inch by 3 1/2 inches, and that's going to go across here as part of our mantle. And then this is a 1/2 inch by 4 1/4 inch, and that's going to go right across here. It looks like I may have cut it a little bit long, so we'll trim that off when we get to that point of layering. All right, so let's move these to the side, and we'll also have a piece that's 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside, and we'll design that as we go. So the first thing you'd want to do is to get all of your coloring and items out of the way to prep for the card. So let's go ahead and come in here, and what I would do is I've set this up on my Stamparatus, and I would do all of my pieces at one time like this is what I've set up. And on your, if I hadn't shown you that, I'll show it to you real quick here. Your dies that come with it are great. You can do, they'll stamp 3 of those, but you have individual dies, so you can cut out what you need and save the rest for later. And then we have the Santa Claus, and this is what I did our tag with. Okay. So let's go ahead and, whoops, this magnet's in the way, so let's move it out of the way. Okay, that looks great, so we can just leave that like so. And I'll go ahead and take this one off and clean it, and then we'll bring in our other piece for our inside and get that one done. Okay, and put this one off to the side. Okay, and let's bring our inside piece in. Let's put this at the corner here. We'll just do this because for our inside piece now, we're going to go ahead and use some cherry cobbler. And let's stamp this up. It's the first time I've used this one, so it may take a couple of stamps to stamp in. And it says, "May the magic of Christmas reach you this year." I think that's really pretty, and especially since you always kind of think of, oh, that came out gorgeous, so we don't need to restamp that. And then I thought we would use on the, since we have it in here, I'll just go ahead and let me take this off and clean it. And we'll go ahead, I thought some presents on the bottom would be a cute border on the bottom. So let's go, I've got it over here. So let's stamp it up. Okay, let's do this way. And then let's do one, I think, how about just straight, and then the other one will tilt to the one side. And let's move it on out so we don't run up against our edge there. And we'll tilt that one. Cute, cute, cute. All right, so let's clean that stamp off and then move on to the next thing. So we're going to move this over. And I think we will go ahead and do our brick. That way it's done. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do our brick and get that part of it done, since that's pretty fast. And what I like to do is I use this thin painter's tape just to kind of tack it on at the top. I don't like to use too much of the tapes. As you well know, they can rip your paper if they're too strong. So let's go ahead, and what I just did then was to find what was the cutting edge, so that that's to the back and you get a nice smooth edge to the front of whatever you're working on. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll bring in one of my scraps here that we can use. And I do like to use, you can use sponge, you can use daubers, you can use any tool that is your preference. I'm going to be using Smoky Slate. And I am going to use my makeup brushes. I do like those. I've been using them for a few months now. And it's my preference for doing this type of work. So let's go in here, and we're just going to give it a good going. And I brought in some of the basic gray, and you can use that along some of the, you can kind of go down the edges of the bricks a little bit, just to kind of give them some dimension and shading, which we can do as well. And you could actually, this, you know, these were designed for our embossing paste, and I think it would be gorgeous. In fact, I'll probably try that when I have more time for the drawing. With this filming, I didn't feel like I would have that kind of drawing time available, and I could have done one, I guess, ahead of time and just slipped it in, but I wanted to make the card the way it was originally made, so that's what I'm doing here. And then we're going to bring in just a little bit of the darker just in different areas here. If you notice, I'm kind of going on the edge here, so it just kind of catches on some of it without giving it all the same tone. Okay, so let's take a peek and see how that looks before we add any more color. Oh, I think that looks great. Okay, so see how simple that is? And in our holiday catalog, I don't know if you noticed the new sets of them there, they have some of the polka dot and different other designs too, so that would be a fun one as well. All right, so let's set this aside now. And then the next thing we've got, let me clean my brush off before I forget that. But the next thing we have would be to do our coloring. Now, I did use a lot of different colors for this card. Let me kind of bring it back in here so you can see it as we work on it. I did use a lot of colors, and but that's me. I like to color, as I've mentioned to you before. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole coloring on this. I have gone ahead and colored this beforehand, but I wanted to show you a few little tricks like what I did on the boots and the buckles if you haven't tried this before. A lot of times we forget whenever we're coloring that it's just light and dark of the same color, but that's not true. You can bring other shades in. Say, for example, in the buckle, you can just kind of make a highlight mark wherever you think you want, and even if you wanted it to have like a little buckle area there. And if your shoes, for example, here, we'll just go ahead and come down and show you what I did on that. And that's your light smoky slate. Then I took the dark black, basic black color, and I came in and just colored in on each side of the areas where I had shaded it with the lighter color. So you have to be careful with this because you don't want to color over your shading because there's no way of getting it back. Once that happens, it's gone. So just kind of color around it. And if you feel like some of them are a little bit thick, you can take them down a little bit too and give it a less highlighted area. So as you can see, just real quick, you get this nice little highlight, and I'm just going to kind of even this one out a little bit. And then for the shoes, for example, you can just come in here on his boots and draw around them, and then just kind of come along that little shine area that his boots would have, like patent leather normally would. Okay, and you can do that. As you can see, I've done it on my gloves in different areas as well. Okay, so the other colors that I use, I'll just kind of go over them real quick, is I use the smoky slate and the light smoky and the dark black. I use the flesh tone, which I call flesh tone, it's the ivory. I use both the crumb cake, which was the light and the dark, which is on the teddy bear there. I'll just set these aside as we go through them. Just put them over here. And then I use both of the peacocks, and that was in the Pretty Peacocks was in this one present. Okay, because I do like to shade them. And then on this area here, I did, for the presents, I used the Highland Heather, both shades of those. And then the golden colors for the ribbon I used was the mangoes. Okay, and then I used the Granny Apple Green and all the green areas you see. And here again, this is a matter of shading. If you'll take your darker green first, like I did here, and you come in on the sides, and then come with your lighter and blend those two, it gives you that pretty shading that goes on, which you would expect to see that kind of a highlight in a real picture scene. And then I used both of my cherry cobblers, light and dark. And what I like to do is I brought this out light, and then I brought more of the dark in to give it that kind of two-tone. Another, had I not used this color background, or had I used a different color, I probably would have done his bag in green, and I think that would have been a real nice accent there. And then after I get done with the face, I like to come in with the light Flirty Flamingo, and I just give him some little, what do you call them, little cherry cheeks that he would have. Okay, so let's set this aside, and I'll bring in the ones I've already colored and cut. That way we can kind of start. Here's the pieces that I've already done. I stamped this with the cherry cobbler, and as you can see, our new framelits just do a beautiful job of coming right around the edges without too much of the white showing. I just think they're gorgeous. All right, then what I did on these pieces is I took my Tombow glue, which I'll bring in here. I took my Tombow glue and brought it around the sleeves, everywhere his fur would be, and then I used our Dazzling Diamonds and sprinkled that on there. And then I used my Wink of Stella, and I came over, even though I'm using shimmery white paper, because that's my favorite paper, especially for watercoloring or using the our blends, is because it gives you that thickness of the cardstock so that it doesn't bleed quite as much, and plus it's sturdier and you get that little shimmer under it. Well, when you bring the Wink of Stella on top of that, you even get a prettier area. Okay, so anyway, that's how I did those. I did the same thing on the stocking. I brought my glue and my Wink of Stella in, and then the inside, and I don't know whether you can see, I'm going to kind of bring it up and hopefully it focuses how much glitter is going on there. All right, so let's set these pieces aside, and I think we're ready to really start assembling it. Okay, we might want to go, I tell you what, let's real quickly go in here and color our present. Okay, I think this looks great. So let's go ahead and stop there, and we'll go ahead and, oh, let me bring out our new, if y'all have not seen it yet, let me bring out our new trimmer. I am so much in love with it. I'll be so happy when we can, everybody can share getting this. But anyway, let's go ahead and score it at our 5.5. It gives a really nice score line. Just love it. And what I'm finding is how precise, look at that, not an edge off anywhere. And I also cut my paper on this, and it's just so smooth. It's beautiful. I just love it. I think they made a great choice in choosing our new trimmer. So thank you, Stampin' Up, for doing such a great job. I'm going to go ahead and use my Snell adhesive. Normally I like to use my liquid, but this will save us a little bit of time. So let's go ahead and do that. Bring this in the center. There we go. Pretty. All right, let's burnish our piece there. So next we're going to put on our piece that we embossed. And it's probably better with this to use liquid, that way you don't press down any of your embossing, but I don't think we did in doing that. Okay, this looks good. Okay, our next piece will be our piece of the black foil. So let's go ahead and put it in on. And we want to bring it up probably, I'd say that's probably about 3/4 of an inch, somewhere around there. And center that there. Okay. And next we want to put on our brick. And since this one is the length of the card, we'll just go from top to bottom and get that as centered as we can. I'm going to get some of my dimensionals over here because we're definitely going to be needing those for our Santas and other areas. Okay, so next let's go ahead and trim down our black piece because it should be 4 1/4, and I may have made it 4 1/2. Let's see what we got here. Yes, that's what I did. So look how nice and pretty and sharp that is right there. Okay, and what we're going to do with this is our red goes next, and we're going to go ahead and put our dimensions on this as well. So let's go ahead and put us a few. And I would like to, for anybody that does follow Dawn's channel and voted on the cards, everybody's cards were just extraordinarily beautiful. I know everybody had a really hard time deciding, but I'm very humbled and thankful that my card did win. So for you who may be following her channel and now looking at this one, I appreciate your votes. All right, so let's go ahead and put our chimney probably about our mantle about there. And then we're going to have this piece that's going to go over the top of it. So we'll use the, let's see if I've got my little mini dimensionals. Here we are. We'll put one on each end to balance it. And then I'm going to put a little adhesive right down the center of it. Let's make sure this is balanced. There we go. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and put on our little, and if you wanted to, you probably could have, we could have stamped this twice, and let's see if, and we'll put instead of having it hang, we'll just put our dimensional right at the end, but you could have stamped these 2 ways and have, you know, done the mirror effect, and would have been able to at that point have your stockings facing each other if you wanted to, but I thought I liked the way they look just hanging like they did. Okay, and then let's bring the other one in, and we'll put a little snail there, and we can put one of our small dimensionals here, our little mini ones. Okay, and we'll put this one about, make sure they're both there, about there. Okay, and then let's go ahead and bring on a small dimensional here as well. And I'm going to put it right over the little tag because we're putting the rhinestones, the red rhinestones on them. And this will just help that rhinestone stick as well. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll bring that about here. Okay, let's get our rhinestones out and place them. Those are supposed to be our little nails with the little rhinestones there. I thought that would have gave it a cute little touch there. Okay, the last thing we need to put on is our Santa Claus, and our card is finished. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, please be sure and like and share it with your friends. And be sure and go to my blog and also subscribe there so that you'll see whenever I have any new postings going out. All right, so there it is. That was the card that I had designed from this card sketch. And again, here's the inside. Sweet card. So anyway, until next time, thank you and God bless, and happy creating.